Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 21 of season 4. If you've just joined, I'm Robyn of At a Tired Witch Everywhere, and I'm joined by the beautiful Maria of Maria the Arcane Everywhere.
Oh, hello. Oh, hello.
And later this episode, we are going to be joined by the wonderful Raechel Henderson to talk about, Home and Hearth Witchery. It's very exciting.
Yeah. Amazing guest. Amazing.
A great chat.
But
12 out of 10.
Yes, it was a very, very enjoyable chat. But we will also be having classes taught the next couple months that we do want to go over because they're very exciting and they're taught by really knowledgeable people, just like Raechel. But anyways, so this month we have a class on working with crystals taught by Nicholas Pearson, and that will be on November 26th of this month at 11 a.m. PST.
Which is so exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. If you want to know ethics of crystals and working with them and all that,
Nicholas is the guy.
Yeah, the dude. And then we are very excited to announce that we will be having a tea magic class next month. This will be taught by S.M. Harlow, who just released a book on tea magic, and that will be on December 20th at 11 a.m. PST as well.
Mm-hmm. So excited.
Yeah, very excited for that class. And then we also have a voicemail set up for our coffee talks where you can tell us your ghost stories or witchy stories with your voice, and we will air it on our coffee talks.
Emails are still an option.
Yes,
for the
emails
record.
are still an option. We can still read off stories and stuff like that. So if it's not your thing to speak out loud, I get
you want to tell us a story, yeah. We love it. Well, it's just giving you variety.
Yeah, exactly. Giving you options. But the number to that is 351-207-0799. So, yeah.
We're already getting voicemails too, and I'm so excited to listen to them.
Same.
I'm just so jazzed. It's going to be so fun. If you've just joined us this week, every week we talk about upcoming lunar phases and how you can utilize those in your magical practice. So that being said, the closest big lunar phase from when this episode comes out is going to be on November 27th. It is the full moon in Gemini. And full moons in Gemini are really great for working on things like our friendship, how we network with others, and just really big ambitions for the future. I personally find this particular full moon to be a good one if you are somebody who is on the cusp of starting a new business career. We talk about things like networking in terms of getting jobs, connecting with other people in jobs, so that way we can advance our career, etc. This is a really good time to focus on that kind of communication and networking. Simultaneously, if you've had any issues when it comes to friendship, whether that's making new friends because you've moved to a new place, communication issues with friends that you already have, or even just strengthening bonds that are fine, but you just want to, give them a little boost. This full moon is a really good time for that. It's a great time to squash drama with friend groups and just really put ourselves to be heard. I personally would do spell work on being heard the way I intend to be heard, and go from there.
Yeah.
What about you?
So, I wrote on our monthly outlook thing that how this would be also a great time to amplify your energy, since Gemini does seem to be a very active air sign, and maybe stepping, while we are slowing down, there are still things we need to wrap up and finish before we go into total hibernation mode. Yeah, so kind of stepping into your energetic twin for a little bit period of time. And actually, I did like a whole ritual for that for the monthly outlook. So if you're on our Discord, you should go and look at it. Well, our Patreon. And then I also think that, you know, it's the holidays and we're going to be spending a bunch of time with family, friends, and stuff like that. So cultivating, like,
I didn't even think about that. Thanksgiving does not cross my brain at all.
Yeah, I don't celebrate
right at the same time. Yeah, we don't either. It's just not us. I'm not here to slander people who do, but it's something we don't choose to do. And so I didn't even think about that. But this is a really good time for family meetups for Thanksgiving. So
exactly.
And Christmas coming around the corner too.
Yeah, and
like
Hanukkah
I feel and all that. It's all happening.
There's tons of like holiday get-togethers happening right now. So like having really good communication going ahead is probably a really good idea. So I think like doing maybe a little communication spell bag and like putting it next to your front door or at your dinner table or something like that, just to kind of help ease conversation and maybe even steer away from the hard stuff, because the last thing you want to do is discuss like really hard stuff when you're trying to enjoy like a meal with family or friends. Totally. So
I'm also going to back up Maria on this because I just checked to make sure I wasn't being a loco crazy girl. But our next full moon is actually happening after Christmas. So this would be a really good time to even do prior planning.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's good.
Yep, thanks. Okay, so we're on to something new starting now and heading into the new season. Previous seasons, we've went over like individual cards in tarot, and this season we have gone over the whole different sections in tarot, and now we're beginning to talk about the themes in tarot and how they may show up in different cards. I think this will be honestly really great in like teaching everyone how to read tarot or even to broaden how you view certain cards. Robyn and I definitely have different opinions on certain cards, so you'll get like two different perspectives each time. And we won't be able to go over every card that may symbolize a particular theme, but rather we will talk about like 3 to 4 cards each that resonate with us. But for our first theme, I decided to take inspiration from this being the first one we will explore. So ergo, cards that symbolize the theme of new beginnings. Now, obviously, you can't talk about the spirit of new beginnings without mentioning the Fool.
I knew it. I knew you were going to say that.
You have to. You got it. But who symbolizes a fresh new adventure. He has his little knapsack full of past knowledge and is ready to go on this journey with an open heart and mind. He is ever the optimist and joyous in his movements and plans, and has yet to be beaten down by the world. But when reality does strike him, he will learn new lessons to tuck away in his knapsack when he is on his new adventure after the cycle ends. And one of my favorite cards that symbolizes new beginnings is the Star card. It is important to look at the previous card to find out why this one might symbolize a new beginning. This card is the Tower card before this one, which represents like a major upheaval. Most of the time it happens when we are being flung by the universe towards the right path. And obviously when we go through a tower-like moment, while we may feel pretty down on our luck for a little bit, it actually eventually sparks new inspiration, new thoughts, new dreams, and a new beginning that is right for us and the journey we are on. We are no longer the fool, though. Like, we're smarter and we know the path forward with much more surety. And then actually the 8 of Cups also strikes me as a new beginning type card. It comes up when we're like leaving something and we're emotionally attached to behind to go on our own journeys of happiness away from what previously did, as a new beginning of exploration of what happiness means uniquely to us when we trust our intuition. Just because we are emotionally attached to something doesn't mean it will make us happy. And then the last and final card. Now, while all aces symbolize like new beginnings, I picked one of my favorites, which is the Ace of Swords. You know that feeling when you are like are far done about like certain situations in your life. Like it's done. And you're done with your current mental health state and all that. Done quieting your ideas and opinions. The Ace of Swords shows a new beginning in regards to rising to the challenge and being ready to go out and battle for what it is we want. But yeah, how about you, Robyn? What are a few cards that represent new beginnings?
Cliche one, so I'm going to start out with the cliche one, which is death.
I knew you were going to do that one. I left that one just for you.
Thanks, Sam. And death is a forceful new beginning. It is one part of our life completely closing off to us, so that way we can start onto a new one. And I think that that's really beautiful and something that, I don't know, too many people take for granted.
No, most definitely.
I got a 2-part one. So first we've got the sun, which is all about new energy, creativity, being the center of attention. When you look at the sun card, you're seeing the sunflowers behind it and a small but joyful new life riding a horse, right? There's this new energy and us being the center of that attention, which then goes off to the Page of Wands. And if you actually look really close, the page is wearing the sun's medal around his neck. And that always signifies to me that good news is coming soon. And that good news coming soon, of course, is a new start, right? Something exciting, something new. It's the recognition. Is that a word? Is that how you say that?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But making our own voice heard, and that, you know, we are going to have this opportunity to kind of step up and see what we can have happen with it. And so I always think that those together, like you have the sun, which is this major, right? Which is all about like us and fresh starts and blossoming things, new energy, new creativity, and then kind of that same energy being brought into a page where pages are, I don't know, the bringers of messages. And so I just think that pairing is really nice.
I like that pairing. Those are good choices. I love those choices.
I'm glad that you allowed me to be cliche too.
Yeah, I think there's so many cards that can be depicted as new beginnings in tarot, but I really think the ones that we spoke about are the ones that, like, I don't know, deeply resonate with us.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So today we're joined by a very special guest. We figured we'd talk about kind of like cozy stuff this episode with someone who knows a lot about cozy and like Home and Hearth Witchery, which you guys know I am all about. So today we are joined by Raechel Henderson. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice, how you started witchcraft, and where you are now.
Hello, thank you for having me today. My name is Raechel Henderson. I am the author of several books and have several articles in various Llewellyn publishing anthologies. And I like to call myself a witch crafter.
I love that.
Which means that I do a lot of my witchery is craft-based. I have a book that my first book was So Witchy, which is a magical sewing book. And my third book, which is coming out December 8th, is called The Natural Home Wheel of the Year. And it's all about crafting and cooking and decorating for the various Sabbats. So that's kind of where my practice is now. Where I started off is I was raised Baptist, and when I went to college, that kind of fell away, and I spent a few years just kind of thinking that I was probably an atheist or an agnostic, and then I think I did what a lot of people my generation did, Gen X, is discovered paganism and Wicca and witchcraft via Cunningham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you found the Living Wicca on the shelf at Barnes and Noble and was like there's other stuff out there. I didn't stay in Wicca for very long. I kind of just call myself a pagan now and a witch. But that was kind of my introduction to witchcraft and to paganism. And right now I work with Hestia, who is the Greek goddess of the hearth. And I'm really into domestic magic, home magic, a little bit of kitchen witchery, but that's not really my primary focus. And it's all, for me, it's all about the home sphere and making it a welcoming and comfortable and loving space, especially in today's society.
Yeah, our home space is like very important, especially. It really is,
and I think it's massively underrated, like how quintessential that is.
Yeah.
So going off of the goddess Hestia, can you tell us a little bit about her mythology and what drew you to her?
Oh, yeah. So there's not a lot written about Hestia. She is the goddess of the hearth and was also a goddess of the state. So officials in ancient Greece would make their oaths for office to Hestia. She is called the first and the last because when she's the daughter of Rhea and Kronos, and Kronos had heard that he was going to be overthrown by one of his children. So when Rhea started having children, he started eating them. So he started off with Hestia, ate her first, then
Delicious.
ate all of her siblings. Yeah, rather than being like, how do I get around this prophecy? Maybe I should just be a better dad. He's like, no, I'll eat my kids.
Classic man, am I right?
And Greek mythology.
Yeah, that's for the course. So that continued until Rhea had Zeus, and what she did is she gave Kronos just a stone, a swaddled stone, and he ate that down. Because again, I mean, who?
Great dad.
Yeah. And so when Zeus grew up, he then proceeded to overthrow Kronos, and in doing so, he forced Kronos to vomit up all of his children. So the last one to emerge was Hestia because she was the first to be eaten, and so that's where we get this idea of her being the first and the last.
I like imagining that he like dislocates his jaw and just like swallows them whole like a snake.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I envision it as well, is just, gulp, gulp, gulp. And so that there's not a lot of mythology about Hestia. There's
because she was in somebody's stomach most of the time.
There's some hymns about her, but for the most part, she is just kind of, for the longest time, kind of this supporting background goddess. And what drew me to her is, at the time when I first became aware of her back in 1999, I was in an abusive relationship. So I was not safe in my own home. And I read this, and all I got was this just little tiny paragraph in Patricia Telesco's 365 Goddess. And it's just this tiny paragraph about this goddess of the home, which I had not seen anywhere. I'm like, goddesses, you have goddesses of sexuality and of beauty and marriage and love and the hunt, but I hadn't ever come across one that was just for the home. And that seriously spoke to me as someone who was just not safe or comfortable in her own home and was missing that the first pillar of Maslow's pyramid hierarchy of needs. That just really spoke to me. I was like, oh yeah, someone that I can talk to and be like, I am not comfortable here. That just really resonated with me.
Yeah. And luckily, if you want more information on Hestia, I mean, you wrote a whole book about working with her. So it's not like a little tiny paragraph anymore.
It's true. I actually, that's my second book. It's The Scent of Lemon and Rosemary, Working Domestic Magic with Hestia. And that book was written precisely because Hestia came to me and said, hey, I want you to write a book about me. And I was like, okay, yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So if someone wanted to start working with Hestia, where do you recommend that they start?
Honestly, since, obviously I would say start with my book, but beyond that, I would say to work on some meditation, work on some reaching out to her, because the one thing about Hestia, the fact that there isn't a lot written about her, especially primary source material, that creates a situation where you have a much more personal relationship with her, because you kind of have to do some of the heavy lifting. There's not like this handy table of correspondences and symbols and associations that you can turn to. So I always recommend that people do a little meditation, do some divination or some journaling to reach out to her and say, hey, how do you want this conversation to go? How should I communicate with you? And that leads to people coming up with their own associations and their own correspondences and their own way of speaking to her. And that's perfectly okay. Like, I think people sometimes get caught up on this idea of the proper way to work with deity. And especially
people
with
are very rule bound, very, very rule bound.
Yes. And that just comes from this desire to, have authority tell you what to do. And the funny thing is, Hestia is totally not about authority. One of the few things we know about her is when Apollo and Poseidon both said, we want to marry you, Hestia said, no. And then she put her hand on Zeus's head and said, I'm going to remain a maiden and unmarried. And Zeus was like, okay. So she enacted her will upon the king of the gods of the Greek pantheon and said no. So she is very much not about authority coming from outside or from someone supposedly higher, but from coming in from the inside.
I love that. That's perfect for like home and hearth stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. So using her energy and or witchcraft, what are some tips for creating a cozy home while we head into a season that's basically all about being in your home? It's cold out there.
It is getting cold out there. The very first thing I would recommend is a good household clean. I know that we tend to emphasize spring cleanings, but when you're coming into winter, you don't want to sit in an environment that is energetically dirty. Stale. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Stale. So opening up the windows, letting that air rush through, doing a mystical floor sweep. I like to put down some salt with like some juniper berries, some pine.
Yes.
And let that sit for a minute or two and then sweep it up. And then as you're sweeping up the dirt, you're also sweeping up that stale energy that you can then dispose of. I feel like if you do house blessing to bring in the energies that you want when you're kind of hunkered down, so those of comfort and of warmth, of safety, especially when the colder months you're going to have things like colds and flu coming in. I like to use wreaths for that. So you hang a wreath on your front door and you energetically charge that with and like anoint it with some oils. I tend to use rosemary, so I have an anointing oil that's olive oil and rosemary that I will then dab on my wreath just to then charge it and say, okay, your job is to keep anything that is harmful out of this house, out of this home. Stuff like that, where you're just along with getting your blankets together and fluffing your pillows, wash all your linens with, again, maybe a couple of drops of rosemary essential oil in the wash, just to then, again, clean them both energetically and also physically. And so while you're gathering all of that, your pillows and your blankets and your tea and all of that you can then also be spiritually comfortable.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think it's so important. Like, I don't know, a lot of people feel like they still have to go full speed during the holidays, like with their practice, but that is not like just kind of finding the coziness and doing stuff that makes your house cozy is so important.
It's not realistic, like, to our ancestors and to history in general.
Yeah.
No, this time of the year is for rest.
Yeah.
And
100%.
we've kind of got away from that, but it is absolutely, and it is totally okay to say, I'm not going to go out and seize the day. I'm going to seize the blanket. I'm going to seize the Netflix queue or the book that I've been reading.
Exactly. Yes. So speaking of hibernating, in your book, you talk about leaving your practice for a bit and coming back to it. Were there any specific signs that it was a good time to hibernate on it? And what were the signs to come out of it?
Yeah, it was most of the reason why I kind of let my practice go to the side were because of external issues. Again, I was in that relationship that was not supportive, and I spent a lot of time in survival mode.
Mhm.
And when you're in that survival mode, a lot of times you just don't have the time or energy to devote to your practice. And it wasn't until I got out of that relationship that after a while, after a period of recovery, that I found I felt like I was missing something. Like there was just something that was lacking in my life. And that's when I turned back to my practice. And that's about when Hestia, who had been sitting on the sidelines, was like, okay, you're ready. Okay, let's do this thing now. And it was all very contingent upon external factors, but coming back was motivated by this idea of, okay, I have the physical side of my needs sorted out. Now I have this big hole in my soul where my practice usually goes, and that's when it was nice to. Then rather than feeling like I was starting from scratch, that I could come back to Hestia and she was just there waiting for me. And it was like, I often say that Hestia has like big ant energy. So she, was just kind of waiting there. And she's like, I knew you'd come back. I knew you needed some time and space. And so now you're here. So let's get the work done.
Oh, me too. So I think that's so important, especially for, I think a lot of people feel like they have to keep up with a full practice, like when they're going through something emotionally, and sometimes that's just not realistic.
Yeah,
absolutely. I also think that while yes, spell work is work and witchcraft is a craft, I think that people seem to forget that, even in work, like literal work, like our jobs, right? We still go on vacation. Like we still, have weekends off, etc. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily the pattern that you should follow, but my point is that there are times for rest and there are times for work. And I think that people forget that.
Yeah, exactly.
So going off of books, and you did mention early on that you have a crafting book. How do you involve crafting into your practice and spell work?
It's the majority of my spell work is crafting. I grew up in a family of makers, and I've always been a crafty person. And I found way back when I got divorced, I was a single mother with a 4-year-old daughter, and I had been out of the workforce for 4 years. So I was like, and this was 2008. So I was like, oh my goodness, what do I do? And I just was like, I need something just to keep us afloat until my daughter starts school, and then I can go and get a job. And what I did is I turned to sewing. And I found myself incorporating magic into my sewing as I'd work. So like I would have, if I was making stuff to sell, I would use green colored pins. So you have the sewing pins where they have the colored tops. I would always use green colored pins to bring that into that kind of prosperity and money magic into what I was making.
Yeah.
I would find Yeah, I would find myself putting like sigils on my sewing machine, like with marker, just, okay, I got this project I need to do and get done, so let's bring some sigils into here to help me keep focused. And it just kind of came naturally to me to start viewing my crafting and my sewing and everything through a lens of, how do I make this magical? And I think part of that was also because it was this idea of, how do I incorporate magic into my everyday life, as opposed to having it be something that I set aside and I do on special occasions.
I love that.
Yeah.
I know that in our Patreon Discord, we're constantly talking about the fact that you should make your magic work for you. It shouldn't be something that you are like forcing yourself to work with, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
And so I think that this is such a beautiful example of exactly that.
Yeah, like finding magic in the mundane is such like a great way to create a sustainable practice, and especially when regarding hobbies, because you're already doing it and you already have a passion for it, so why not involve it in magic? It just makes sense.
Yeah, and that's I often will say, like with housework, because housework is mundane and it's boring and repetitive and nobody likes to do chores. So I always urge people to find the magic in doing the chores. You're not just washing your dishes, you are cleansing them. You're not just dusting, you are removing that stagnant energy. And that's a way to incorporate magic into your everyday life.
Yeah, absolutely.
1,000%, yeah.
Yeah. What is your favorite, like, easy witchy craft to do during winter that you think our listeners would love to take part in?
I'm a big cross stitch and embroidery person, and I love having, when I'm making something, when I'm cross stitching something, usually it's something to hang on my walls so that I can put intent with each stitch. I'm actually going to this winter, I'm going to learn how to crochet, because crochet and knitting are the two crafts that I've never actually tried. So I think stuff like that, where you work with your hands and it helps bring you back into your body. Because again, this is a time of rest. So if it's something that you can sit, and so again, like the doing cross stitch or embroidery, knitting or crocheting, stuff like that, where you can just kind of sit and focus on something. It's almost meditative. And I know a lot of people out there do those hobbies.
I crochet, yeah,
and
same.
may not have thought about, oh yeah, I can turn this into an opportunity for magic.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that these kind of home crafts, these simple home crafts that like become a part of our everyday use, like quilting a blanket, crocheting a blanket, crocheting a cardigan, I don't know, knitting one, etc. I think that when you kind of put that intent into things, like what a special and just, I don't know the right word here, it's just such an intimate thing to do, you know what I mean? Especially if you're giving it to somebody.
Yeah,
very special.
And it's like magic made physical, and that magic will stick with you long after you've made it.
Exactly.
So every time you use it, you will remember, I made this with this intention, and it just renews that magical energy.
Absolutely. Do you have any correspondences you tie into certain materials for crafting that you think that witches should consider when coming up with crafting projects?
Oh yeah. Actually, in that book, So Witchy, there is a whole couple sections on various magical associations for all of your different sewing tools and different items. I tend to, I have associations for various materials. So like silk is associated with the element of fire, cotton is associated with the element of earth, stuff like that. But I think that for a lot of people, because again, this idea that we have this table of correspondences, which is often a really good starting off point for people. But I think people then kind of make that be their end point as well. So I always encourage people to then go beyond that. And so look at like, okay, I have these buttons and some of them are metal, so that's and wood, so that's like earth energy. I've got glitter, and so that's kind of has this glamour energy about it, and how can I use that in this thing that I'm doing. I do personally have correspondences, and I encourage other people to come up with their own. But if people need a starting off point, that's where the So Witchy book comes in to help them with that.
I love a book with like correspondences like that a lot. It's my favorite. It's very nice.
Yeah, but you're like a correspondence and symbolism queen.
I am. I collect them. I find it very interesting, especially hearing other people's. It's true. It's true. I collect other people's correspondences.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tell us a few of your favorite books in relation to Home and Hearth Witchery.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so there's one that came out a year or so ago called Hearth and Home Witchcraft, which is by, let me look, I think this is Jenny Blonde.
Yes.
Yeah, Jenny Blonde. That one is great. I also, the one that first got me thinking about all of this, about house witchery and stuff, was The Magical Household by Cunningham. And then there is Spinning Spells and Weaving Wonders, which is by Patricia Telesco, and that one has a lot of information about household magic and working with that. I also as kind of not, I guess I'd say secular, but or non-magical. Lots of books about hygiene. Those are really good to start getting you kind of thinking about how you can make your home cozy, and then using your imagination to incorporate magic into that.
For those of us who are illiterate and cannot read, how would one perhaps spell that if we wanted to look it up?
Hygge.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Some of us are very beautiful, but not smart.
Oh, no.
Oh, goodness. Well, I think that's all of our questions for you today.
Yeah.
This has been wonderful. Fun. Thank you so much for joining us. And before you leave, could you please remind our lovely listeners where they can find you and like some of your work so they can look you up?
Oh, absolutely. So you can find me on Instagram, and I'm under Idiorhythmic, which is a word that means living by one's own life patterns.
Love that.
Yeah, that's kind of my word. And you can find me on there. You can find me on Facebook with the same, under the same name. Again, I have a book coming out about the Sabbats on December 8th. That's the Natural Home Will of the Year. And I just finished up a workshop actually on working with Hestia, which you can sign up for free to watch the video of it. You can do it via, you'll find the link to it on my Instagram, on my link tree there. So people can, and if people have questions or anything about like Hestia or domestic magic or anything like that, they can always DM me via Instagram. I'm happy to goob about this for like ever.
And all of these like links and stuff will be in the caption for those of you who are like me, illiterate, very beautiful, very dumb. It will be in the caption so you guys can just copy paste it.
Yeah, and you can find my books, you can find them online, either from the publisher Llewellyn or, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, those type of online places, or your local metaphysical store is a really great place to go and either order through them, or the books may be on the shelf there.
And if they aren't, you should request them, not just for Raechel's work, but other people's work, because small businesses matter and they need our support.
Yes.
100%. But yeah.
Well, thank you again
for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
This has been great. So, Maria, what's stirring your cauldron this week?
I think that was the sexiest voice you've ever done, ever.
Thank you. I did warn you before we started that I was going to sexually harass your ears.
You did. You did a great job.
Apologies to everyone.
Well, then I owe a ton of apologies.
You're
so sorry.
Kind of a Scarlet Woman. It's pretty sick.
I really miss my calling as a phone sex operator.
You could have been like Rocco from Rocco's Modern Life.
Oh, I know. Oh my gosh. Discovering that when I got older was hilarious. So hilarious.
It's so funny because it was right in front of our face the whole time. And yet we were ignorant.
People are like, oh, kids watch the most ridiculous stuff nowadays. It's like, did you not watch Rocco's? Did you
guys just miss Ren and Stimpy? Like, hello?
Oh no. Okay. Back on topic. So what is stirring my cauldron right now? So I took a quasi week off last week. I needed a good health reset because I keep getting sick, and I don't know, like when you get sick a lot, your house just kind of like the junk like piles up. And
yes, I've never been sick in my life, but I've heard that can happen.
Okay. I can't wait to hear what you talk about in the next section. But anyways,
what about yourself and your own life? Okay, I'm feeling attacked right now.
But I don't know. Like, it just felt like everything in the house was really stagnant, and so I don't know. I just got out like all the winter decorations and spent time like decorating. Yes, I did this while sick, and yes, my wife did give me a hard time about it. But if it's not endometriosis pain, I'm like, it's fine. But it's so funny because I was basically all of last week doing stuff on my own time and completing things on my own time, and it was just such a freeing thing. And I think that's what I crave, and that's why I get really overwhelmed really easily, but I don't get overwhelmed when I do things on my own time. And it's funny because when I was reading my I go to cafes and I do read my witchy books and take notes and stuff like that, and I'm currently reading Hecate's Cave, and I came across the words Chronos and Kairos, and Chronos is like sequential and measured time, while Kairos is measured by the importance and depth of moments rather than duration. And I realized how much Chronos influences our lives because we have appointments to keep, we give ourselves deadlines to do things, and unfortunately, a lot of them, some of them are imposed by jobs and stuff like that, but a lot of them are also self-imposed, where we I'm going to give myself this much time to do it. And if you're anything like me, it just makes you feel like you're in a box, claustrophobic, and then you end up not getting any of it done. But and I just feel like being on that other time and allowing yourself to kind of do things on your own time and devote your time to certain projects until you are done with them.
And devoting my life to products found at Ulta. Sorry.
I don't have the money for that. But I don't know. It's just really funny how certain words pop up when you are going through something. And I'm trying my very best to keep that mindset that I learned last week of doing things on my own time, because I really do feel more productive and stuff like that. But yeah, that's
I love that.
My cauldron. So, Robyn, what is not stirring your cauldron right now?
The fact that you don't do this for a living.
I don't know. That didn't come off as nasally and gravelly as I wanted to. It's a fine.
Well, it's funny you should say that.
Speaking of what I was giving you a hard time about, go on.
Speaking of that, and why it was that my sexy voice was so sexy, is because I am so sick of this weather gunking up my nose and making my nose runny. I've had a runny nose for 6 weeks. 6 weeks. And I was like coughing and stuff like that because there's like postnatal nasal drip. And I'm just like, who gave Mother Earth the right to be this cold and damp? I'm so glad I'm moving to England. Oh my God.
Yeah, you're totally not going to experience that there too.
No. I'm going to get my nose removed. Actually, a friend of mine posted that she's been doing red light therapy on her nose, like to help. And if she says it's working, she's like, I don't know if it's psychosomatic or not, but I'm like, mayhaps we give it a whirl. Because like that's genius, right? If it actually works.
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't work, they're not that expensive. Like the ones for, it's called nasal light therapy. Not that I've looked into this. But it's
seems
like
fake, but okay, go on.
Listen, I'm desperate. They like literally are little plugs that go in your nose and like light it up, and they're not that expensive for like if it actually works.
You're gonna be so festive.
Am I gonna be the sexiest woman in the world? Perhaps.
It's okay, Rudolph. It'll be fine.
I'm gonna send you a photo of this right now. You're gonna scream while we're on air right now. I want everyone to get your live reaction of how psychotic this looks. Mind you, this is just an example, but this is like the vibe that all of them have. It's like these little like pegs that go in your nose for red light therapy. And
that's so hot. That's so hot.
Listen, I'm not trying to say that I would be like so sexy, but I feel like the images speak for themselves.
But those are so long. Like the lights themselves, it's like, are you going to be giving yourself like a COVID test like every single time you put these in?
I honestly hope that I am. I went to the doctors about my ongoing nasal drip, and they were like, well, we have to test you for COVID. And I was like, I don't have COVID. And they're like, we have to. You've told us that you're sick. And I'm like, no. And they only have the kits that go to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only ones that they had. And I was like, what if this was my last straw? And she made me sit on my hands so I didn't slap her. She was like, it happened. And guess what? I didn't have COVID.
Imagine.
So yeah, that's just what's not stirring my cauldron. Just whether having the audacity.
Can I say that if you go to the page, you see people outside wearing this, like it's completely
you're lying.
normal?
Is that in the reviews?
No, it's in the advertisements. Like if you go down to like the product image gallery.
Oh my God. That is literally so funny. He's just like walking. He's like, yeah, I'm on a stroll with my portable nasal red light therapy. That is genuinely so long though. Like this specific example, like that is like an inch of red light tubes going right up to the cranium. I can't wait.
How exciting.
If it works though, I'm going to tell everyone. If it doesn't work, you'll never hear about it again.
Well, we demand pictures either way.
If you've just joined us this week, every week we talk about creators that we are loving right now. And this season, we started to incorporate a third option, which are listener submitted ones. So these are just people that Maria and I have been finding organically, and we think you guys might think is cool too. So that being said, Maria, who is your first person? Well, who is your person? Not your first.
My first person? Am I doing multiple? I'm just kidding.
It's me, guys. I'm her number
Robyn's
one.
always my choice.
I'm her number one. Hello.
But so I recently got sent some really cute like witchy hair clips.
Yes, I got them too.
If you know me, Like, if my hair isn't down, it's in a claw clip. And these are like super cute. Like, there's like
no, I'm obsessed.
What like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I don't really look at the thingy. But they're like, I have a triple moon goddess one, a broom, and
there's a salt circle. Did you get the salt circle?
I don't know. Let me look. No.
I got a salt circle. I got Ouija board or planchette.
I got a cauldron. Like a cute little cauldron. Yeah.
Listen to us. We sound so stupid. But they are soon.
But they are really cute. And so if you want cute little witchy hair clips, I definitely recommend checking them out. Especially if you live in them like me.
You should probably tell them who it is because you haven't said it yet.
Oh, I haven't? Oh my God. Sorry, I was just so excited about them. But it's from Hey Ricochet. And that's all one word. And they're on TikTok and Instagram. So,
and one of the founders is from Moondust Press.
Yeah. That does the cute little children's book.
Yeah, who does the children's book. So 10 out of 10. Love it.
Mm-hmm. So who you been loving?
So there is one of my friends sent me this. It is a purse by a brand called Dynamic Doll. And I don't know if you've ever heard me talk about Kewpie dolls before. If you haven't, then this must be your first day on the podcast. I collect Kewpie dolls. It is a whole thing my husband wishes didn't happen. And Dynamic Doll is making purses that are Kewpie doll heads that are bags. And I've never needed anything more in my life. Like, ever.
I like how you say that you are addicted to, like, collecting them when you literally made one.
I did. My child looks like a Kewpie doll. I know that you guys have no idea what my kid looks like, but trust me.
They really
I literally love Kewpie dolls so much that I manifested one, and my child looks exactly like a Kewpie doll. And so I need this purse because picture me walking down the street with my cute little Kewpie doll purse and then my little Kewpie doll child, and we're just like, ka-chow, ka-chow, ka-chow. That'd be so cute.
That would be so cute. So cute.
Do you want to tell everyone who are listener choices? Sure.
So it is, I'm going to do my very best to do this, but I think it's...
You can do it. I believe in you.
Altamada Bridal?
Yeah. Altamada Bridal, I think is it.
Yeah. And they have like a super gorgeous veils. And
yes.
I am totally typing this in right now.
So basically, specifically speaking, the one that we were sent is called the Desert Rose Veil. Mm-hmm. And is like this long cathedral veil. That
it's beautiful.
Stars. It is stunning. Absolutely stunning. So if you are listening to this and you're like, I'm going to be a bride soon and I want to incorporate witchy stuff, consider it because it's fucking gorgeous. Also,
I would just wear this around the house.
Start your order, so I have no fucking clue how expensive it is. But I'm going to trust the process and assume that it is definitely in my budget. Not that I'm getting married anytime soon, because it is fucking stunning.
Yeah, I would just wander around the house with it on.
Literally so beautiful. 12 out of 10. Oh my goodness gracious.
And ask the wife if she wants to get remarried, so I can just wear that. Just for that purpose.
Propose to her.
I have.
Would you remarry me again?
Just weddings are so expensive, and then COVID
weddings
happened.
Are so fun. If I could, I'd get married every year. To the same person, obviously, but so I would do it every year because it's so fun. They're so fun. I love them. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We hope to see you again on November 24th for our Coffee Talk episode, or December 1st for the last big episode of Season 4. You can keep an eye out on our social media or head to our website, coffeeandcauldrons.com, to find out more information and see what we are up to. And don't forget to join us on November 26th in Patreon, the library tier and up, for a class with Nicholas Pearson on working with crystals, which will be at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you can't make the class, but you are interested in it, it is available immediately on the Patreon, like as soon as it starts. So even if you can't make it, or you're going to be late and you're really interested, something like that, it will be available to everyone, library tiered up.
Yeah. And additionally, our Patreon Magical Beginnings offers our special 25-minute part 2 episode, a huge library of articles about witchcraft, a Discord community full of fun events and discussions. And we have a tier that offers one-on-one conversations with Robyn and myself.
Woo-hoo. So please, if you love our sexy, sensual, just chef's kiss voices, I don't know if you guys heard, but I did a really good sultry voice earlier, so something to consider. Please take a moment to review us on whatever streaming service that you are tuning in from, such as Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We love reading your reviews, and rating us with 5 stars helps us to be seen by others. Simultaneously, Spotify now has a feature where you can leave us feedback on each episode and engage with us, and we would love to read them. So please do. And thank you to everybody who already has and everybody who will in the future. We really appreciate you.
And again, this is Coffee and Cauldrons
with Robyn from At a Tired Witch Everywhere.
And I'm Maria from at Maria the Arcane on everywhere. Everything.
Everything. All right, ready?
Yep. 1, 2, 3.